Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Top 100 Clubhouse, the ultimate podcast for golf course enthusiasts worldwide. I'm your host, James Henderson, and we're about to embark on a journey through lush fairways and breathtaking landscapes, as well as delving deep into the minds of fascinating individuals from every corner of the golfing universe. Get ready to explore the world's top golf courses through the eyes of those who know them best. The Top 100 Clubhouse podcast is brought to you by Eden Mill, bringing the tradition of distilling back to St Andrews, the home of golf.
When you mention Scotland to anyone all over the world, one of the main places they'll mention is St Andrews because of that connection to golf. For us to really bring whiskey back and connect into the local history of the town, but really just adds an extra layer, an extra feather in the cap of what St Andrews has to offer.
This week on the pod we have Martin Ebert. Martin Ebert is the retained architect for 8 of the 10 open rota golf courses. He's also done some brilliant renovation work around the world at Hirono and Turnberry. I hope you enjoy. Hello Martin, thank you very much for being here. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's great. Always good to be at St Andrews.
Yeah, it's a special place. We're here for the Walker Cup, and are you here? Have you been here for a few days, or
no? Just arrived, and I think the weather's set fair. A shame in a way. It would be nice if they were tested by some really strong wind, but don't think it's going to happen.
I would like to start off with asking you, how did you get into golf? What was your?
Yeah, it's an interesting one that because no real family background in golf. My uncle played, so I just used to go and caddy for him every now and again. But I remember seeing it on the television, thinking I'd love to have a go at that. And then it was a case of how do you start? So in those days, with no parents playing, then you just couldn't get onto a golf course, really. So my great mum, who's still with us, she took me down to the Colnbrook driving range at Heathrow Airport on the way to her work there. And I think mum and dad got me a £10 set of secondhand clubs and just stayed there till the hands bled really or blistered, and just really loved the game. They thought it would be a bit of a fad for me, but it turned out that it wasn't, and it continued to the current day, I guess, which is crazy when you think about it.
And how did you get into architecture from that love of the game?
Well, I guess my in terms of playing career was never stellar, but I ended up at Cambridge University, played in the team. Despite having a particularly bad first trial, but we won't need to go into that. But eventually got into the first team, ended up as secretary of the golf club in the 100th, or the year of the 100th varsity match, Oxford and Cambridge. We decided, we thought, let's celebrate that occasion by a tour off to the States. So we went off to the northeast part of the United States. We played Pine Valley, Merrion, Shinnecock Hills, Baltusrol, Garden City, Maidstone,
all the municipal courses, Martin.
I mean, we were lucky. We had a good friend who a guy, Oxford and Cambridge Golfing Society guy, who was working out there, and he managed to fix up all of the fixtures for us, which was great. But that really led to me thinking I'd love to do something in golf because I was leading that tour. I really wanted to. I was captain of that tour and wanted to, as a result, do something in golf, but I didn't think I could design golf courses. So came back, instead of having studied engineering, didn't want to do engineering, didn't want to do the banking, didn't want to do the management consultancy, didn't want to do all the stuff that would be normal after a career at Cambridge, and ended up being a waiter at a golf club. But so that was a bit crazy. Luckily, I met my wife there, and that was a bit strange that we were both there, but we were. She knew Sevi, which was an incredible. Actually, had met him and tried on his green jacket, so that was pretty special. So that was love straight away.
The green jacket,
the green jacket story. But then, didn't think I could design. Was about to I wasn't getting anywhere really, and then all of a sudden, a good friend at Cambridge, Andy Mackenzie, his brother Tom, who's my current partner, he got in touch and said, "Look, I know you're looking for something in the golf game. I'm working for Donald Steele. He's very busy. Perhaps we could, get together and, there'd be an opportunity for you here." I knew Donald more as a writer, I suppose, at that point, and didn't know if it was really to research books or what it was. But anyway, it turned out that it was, get stuck into golf course design. And he was a great guy to learn from. His contacts were tremendous. His general principles and philosophy regarding the game was superb. Very sort of links orientated, I suppose. He played in the Open here in 1970. Won the President's Putter 3 times in different decades and whatever. So great chap and inspiration to have, as a boss. But I guess Tom and I, we took the sort of technology forward with the way that we design, because Donald was very much more of a sort of a hands-on person rather than a plan drawer. So we took the business in that sort of direction for Donald and with Donald. And we had some great projects through to 2005 when, so I started in 1990 with Donald, continued to 2005. Donald closed down the company, and that led myself and Tom to start up Mackenzie Ebert.
You obviously learned a lot from Donald. What is your approach to, what things have you changed in your approach from Donald to the modern day changes you make now?
I think in terms of the way we design, that's probably the biggest change. We now believe in producing very detailed plans, so that's probably, I think that's what we would be known for. Contractors and whatever, if they would make a comment on the way that we work, they say, well, they produce some of the most detailed plans that we come across. We've had experience of that in America. A great company called Landscapes Unlimited. We did a course for Donald. It sort of straddled the two companies. And that was a question of producing those plans, sending them over to the landscapes guys. And they said, we've never seen plans like this. We also took a shaper, and they said, what size of bulldozer does he want? And we said, he doesn't want a bulldozer. He wants an excavator. And they said, really? We've never built a green with an excavator before. Anyway, they got him his excavator. Marcus Terry did a great job on a beautiful course called Primland in Virginia. I don't know if you've been out there. Jim's nodding there. So. I know what. And what an incredible project it was. 13,000 acres or 13,500 acres.
Martin, can I just take 1 sec? Jim, can you hold the mic up at your mouth?
Kip.
Just because if we can't hear you, then it's going to be a nightmare. Sorry, Primland.
Yeah, Primland. So 13,500 acres of land. And we spent a day looking around the place, and we couldn't find anywhere which was suitable for a golf course in 13,500 acres. So we were left with having to go back to the client saying, not sure you've got enough land, even though you had 13,500 acres. But that night we got the plans out and saw that there was it looked like a flat area, but up at the top of the mountain. And they said, surely you don't want to go up there. It's 5 or 10 degrees colder. It's about 40 minutes drive from the entrance gate to get up there once you're in the property. So, well, no, look, take us there. That could be the one place. Next day we went, and it was just the most magical place with the incredible views from off the top, sheer drops in places. But anyway, Landscapes built the course. Marcus Terry did the shaping of the greens and the bunkers. And at the end of it, they said we couldn't have shaped these greens with a bulldozer. It had to have an excavator. So I guess that was the sort of the detail of the shapes that we wanted to create. That I guess we've always felt, as good as these guys are with bulldozers, they are brilliant. But as good as they are, the smaller scale, and it's still a big machine, a 13-ton excavator, but the smaller scale of that allows the detail of the shapes to be, it's like I suppose, what is it? Compared to this sort of massive 12-foot wide blade, it's a much smaller implement to get the shapes. And I think, again, that's inspired by, some of the shapes out here at the old course. When I just love coming here because just all of those natural shapes, some of them man-made though, I have to say, they're just beautiful, the intricacies of them. So I think that's what inspires us. And still, it's a challenge to try and emulate what's out there and what the great old architects did. I think they were the best.
And on that, Martin, you said obviously the old course, as many golf course architects would cite as a huge influence. Are there any other golf courses, whether they be classic or modern, that you revere enough that it gives you that inspiration and I must use that when we're in this situation? Yeah,
interesting question. Old course, I think I know everyone says it, but it is true in terms of, there's no course like it. But when you look at the detail of it, there's some real beautiful stuff there on, fairway shapes, green surround shapes, green shapes as well. But I think you learn from everywhere, Simon, to be honest. When I was recently in America, I had the privilege to go and visit Old Elm and Shore Acres. And
wow, love those courses.
You think of what Seth Rayner did at Shore Acres, for instance. Not having seen some of the holes that he was inspired to design, but the Leavenhole, just seeing that on the ground, and it was great. I was at London yesterday and just sort of thinking, wow, he never saw this, but he produced something brilliant at Shore Acres. So that was inspiring. Just seeing that, the Biarritz Green and whatever. It's just amazing what I was so impressed with Shore Acres and Old Elm, both of them, were tremendous. Didn't get to Chicago, sadly, but like to do that next time maybe. So there's so many courses which you can be inspired by, I think. And I guess it's when the detail is right up there that you then sort of start thinking, that is something to be inspired by. But also, you have to be honest and say, God, could I do that? Is it possible? And just that's where I think you probably never stop learning in this game, and we're always trying to improve and get the right shapes. Because for me, it comes down to shapes. The course routing is one thing, but once you've got that right, then the detail of the shaping is the key thing for anyone, I think.
Go on, Jim.
Could I just ask, your trip to US, was it connected with any potential projects, Martin, you could talk about?
Yeah, we have a great new course project, a strange one really. There was a course put there, but it never opened on Puerto Rico, coastal site, just some really sort of stunning coastal stretches for it. But I say the course never opened. The two developers went bust. Now the current people, the clients that we're working for, it seems to be on a very solid footing, and they're great people to work for. They just want the best out of the golf. They're changing where houses are going just so that we can get the best out of the site for the golf. That's great
to hear.
Have. Yeah, no, it really is. So that's a special one, and that was it was on the back of that, and then we got the invitation to go and look at a couple of courses in one of them to go and have a look at North Shore where they just had the Western Amateur. So that was interesting to see. We'll see what comes, but it would be nice. I think we've had so much work, I guess, in the UK and Ireland, Europe. Now, obviously, New South Wales, Hirono in Japan was a great project for us. Hamilton in Canada. So I think our outreach is expanding now, and it would be great, to think that we might have the opportunity with some of the great American courses that were, designed by British influenced architects, if not British architects.
So I'd like to jump in there because you mentioned Hirono. So I think, and correct me if you think this is unfair, but just because of the nature of the big names you've been able to do the renovations at, and I know Jim and I have talked about this, and James, the huge success at Turnberry, I think it's fair to class that as a bit of a sacred cow, that there was maybe things that weren't as good as were promoted before, and then after the changes now, I think anyone that goes there that isn't blown away needs to have a good look at themselves. It's just like fantastic. But then Hirono, I was fortunate enough to play both before and after your work there, and congratulations, what a spectacular success that has been. And what were the challenges of working in Japan, or if we can flip back to Turnberry, a very famous owner there as well, with input from maybe the club or an owner, and balancing out the client's wishes versus your own creative integrity as well?
Yeah, I mean, Turnberry was a fascinating one, as you say, a very famous owner, who we didn't think, I didn't think that we would be, dealing with Mr. Trump, for the project. When we first heard that Mr. Trump was going to buy Turnberry, we thought, well, that's the end of us, really, because at the time he was working with Martin Hawtrey up at Aberdeen, Gil Hantz over at Doral. So we just thought, wow, that's sad. Yeah, having had a lot of involvement at Turnberry, but a frustrated involvement. We did some work, some good work for the 2009 Open, or some inspiring, exciting work for the 2009 Open. But there were other plans that we hadn't been able to push through. George Brown, the great old course manager, he'd always had this idea for the 11th hole that we now have onto new lands that originally Philip Mackenzie Ross didn't have to play with. But the owners at that time, they just had no desire to follow that through. They didn't really have much interest in the golf, it seemed. So then to get, to have an owner that really wanted to get the very best out of Turnberry was fantastic. Did not expect him to have so much, hands-on, desire to influence the design and draw the plans and whatever. It was incredible.
So, any ideas that Mr. Trump had that you put in play, or can you tell us
absolutely.
about
Well, I mean, nine was an
Yeah.
interesting one, Jim, as you say. So nine, I was pushing for a short four. I thought we could get something really, really exciting as a short four, and he was adamant that it was going to be a par three and a long par. It had to be a long par three from that tee, the old championship tee. So. And went backwards and forwards over that one. And I think he's right. I'd have to hold my hands up and say I think it plays better as the long three. It would have been probably too short as a short four. And as he said, people around the world, they focus on par threes. As good as short par fours are, we all know that a great short par four is fantastic. But somehow par three holes, exciting par three holes, really do make a mark. So he won out on that one, but there was a few others where I managed to hold my own. And he did describe me as the most stubborn man as he'd ever met twice at press conferences. So I don't know whether that's a compliment or not.
Then if we flip to Hirono, I'm aware of, I think I'll maybe get this wrong, is it the Shinto religion? Is that correct? It's everything of nature is sacred. And I remember the first time I played Hirono, I just thought this place is just choked by trees, but what incredible bones it has. So talk to us about that process and how it was that part of it tricky. Like, was that a big sales job by you to be able to do that with the club? Or
I mean, I've had some people say, why didn't you take more trees out, of Hirono? And my response to that is, well, again, we look back at the very earliest photographs of the course and there were trees around. There were these beautiful Japanese pines around. But you're right, Simon, they'd been choked by, self-seeded trees, planted trees. The back of the fifth green was just a sea of conifers and it really... Yeah, that was a shame, but again, as you say, you could see the bones of it there. So it was absolutely no problem. I guess one of the types of tree that we thought might be a bit of an issue to suggest removing were cherry trees, knowing just how they love the cherry blossom season and what have you. But again, the captain Morimoto-san said, no problem. We can take those out. No, not an issue. But we haven't taken them all out, because I think that's the beauty of Hirono and golf in Japan, these seasons that you get, just the spring cherry blossom, the summer where everything's so verdant green. For me, the autumn is just the best with the maples coming out. And we probably would have cut down a lot of maples. And then, our early visits were in the early part of the year. And then we went in the autumn and just thought, God, we can't take these maples out. They're just so beautiful. So it's interesting how you taught us that you've got to see a course throughout the whole year to really get a feel for it. But it was a special project. There was very much religious ceremony at the end when the priest had to come and bless the course at the opening. So that was special to be part of that. But no, it was a wonderful project. When we again got wind of the fact that they wanted to restore, it just seemed right up our street. Charles Hugh Allison, having been the designer. So again, that British link, the fact that they had such good material, the old photography, old plans from Allison, they were all there. The one missing link that we didn't have, because that gave us so much character for the bunkers, for instance, but the one missing link we didn't have was any green detail. And of course, Allison was only there for a week, so we don't know, just what those greens were like, whether they were as he wanted them. He left green plans, but they weren't that easy to decipher exactly what he wanted. A lot of them were characterized by these sort of very big mounds at the back center of greens, in the green surround. So those were all respected because, he certainly referred to those in his plans. But I guess we had to sort of, in terms of green shapes, sort of imagine what Charles Hugh Allison might have wanted. But the bunkering was incredible, just to see how they'd evolved in the very early years as well. Recently contributed to an article in McKellar where it was described, how initially the bunkers were fairly ordinary. They were nice, but they didn't have this beautiful intricacy. But Allison brought over an American construction supervisor called George Penglaze, but not to work on Hirono, to work on Tokyo. And my theory is that that the guys at Hirono, after Alison had left, they went down to see Tokyo, saw the bunkers that he was producing, and thought, we need to have some of that, and copied that style up at Hirono, is the theory. But, within a couple of years, they'd become, I'd say, classics, and absolutely brilliant shapes. So when we went there, it was, a restoration committee had already been formed. We said, are you sure you want to restore these huge, great areas of sand? It had the name Pine Valley of Japan. So going there, we were expecting to see, come across sand, just a sandy site, not one grain of sand at Hirono. So when you see that huge bunker diagonally cutting across the carry of the 18th, that was all created. Nothing of that was there before. So they imported all of that sand to create that look. Amazing.
And very specifically on Hirono, we did a bit of a deep dive here, is a wonderful set of par threes. But I specifically want to ask you about the 13th because of the change of position of the tee. So for listeners, maybe haven't heard of Hirono before, this wonderful golf course in Japan, the 12th hole is this sort of sweeping dog-leg right-left. I say sweeping because there's trees, so you can't really see the sweep. And then was that hole extended, and then they moved the original tee on 13, so now it plays almost like 90 degrees at a different angle. I've described that poorly, but could you describe?
No, you've pretty much got it. Yeah, the 12th hole was extended twice, in fact. Alison designed it as a 5, bogey 5, I guess, in those days. But then green moved on once, green moved on another time, and I think it was the second move that it sort of made more sense to walk on from that green and play the 13th from 90 degrees opposite, of an angle compared to the original hole. And the original hole got buried in the trees. And that was one definite part of the brief when we went to meet the restoration committee, was we do want this great hole.
They drove that
yeah, they
change.
drove it very, very,
oh, wow.
yeah, absolutely drove it. And what we've ended up with is both holes. So we've got the one which it ended up becoming, but also we've restored that 1930 hole as well. And I think the members like the 1930 one.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I played it this past autumn, and the previous time was obviously the old new tee, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Was there any temptation to try and talk about moving that green back and making it a shorter hole, as in the 12, so it flowed straight onto that new tee?
Not really, no. I don't think it was even discussed. I mean, yeah, maybe it was considered, but I don't know. I mean, I remember, I know your colleague David Davis, certainly felt that it was the weak link of the course when he went to play. Well, I don't know. I mean, it was a 5, as I say, when it was originally conceived. We all know how far these guys hit the ball now. I think it's a true 5, and it really is. It's getting over 600 yards, I think. So, I think personally, I think it fits. I know it's for everybody to decide whether they think it does as well. I don't think the walk back is too bad, really.
Some walks are worth it, and that one is. So that's fine.
Yeah, compared to some, I think it's if you didn't have the tee further on, I don't think you'd be too worried, because you're walking off to the right. We cleared a little bit, so you're looking down onto the lake and the beautiful bridge as well on the route back. So, I personally, I think it's fine. But I like 12 the way it now is a serious test of a 3-shot hole.
Would you say your work there is one of your proudest bits of work you've done?
James, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. To go out there so often, 13 times in 10 months during construction, we've had the odd criticism, these guys, they don't spend much time because they do it all with detailed plans and whatever. 13 times in 10 months, I'm not sure many people would go.
Well, it's interesting because your name's on a lot of golf courses now. You've been involved in, was it 300 odd golf courses? Would that be right?
I don't know. I haven't counted, to be honest.
Have you never counted?
308 on the website. Yep.
Seriously?
Yep.
Is it? Oh, God.
Yep.
Right. Well, I do share those with Tom, obviously.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it shows that we've been in far too long in the business, I guess. But
so what other changes would you say is your proudest changes?
I mean, that's a in terms of existing courses, Hirono, Turnberry, Portrush.
How about your solo design stuff?
And solo design, I mean, if I focus on one close to my heart is Victoria in Sri Lanka. Designed for Donald, but I was the guy out there really with Donald predominantly. And my father was born in Sri Lanka, so it was an opportunity for me to go and actually, experience the island for a start, and to work with people that had no idea what golf was, and then to end up, and I think for me it could be one of the most beautiful inland sites I've ever come across. Really is special. By the Victoria Reservoir, so it's almost like a sea, but the mountains are surrounding it. So that was special. Primland, as I've mentioned, that really is right up there. Goodwood in Canada was a great opportunity to be working on. But it's true to say we would love to have done more new course work. One of the ones that we hope will come up, and I think it would be classed more of a new course than anything, is near here, St Andrews.
I was going to ask you about
St Andrews Bay.
At the Fairmont. Yeah, I mean, we've got permission for everything that we want there. It just will be stunning when we get that done. We'll have, I think it's 9 holes playing along the coast with greens on the edge of the cliffs. The views back to St Andrews are stunning. So that really does excite me. I think when we get that bit finished, then
will it be a complete new build? Yeah,
everything will be completely redone, Jim. So it's obviously there's 2 courses there at the moment, but the brief was we want the best 18 that we can get on this overall site. So obviously we've been greedy and just taken the whole coastal frontage, but I don't think there'll be many courses with as many holes along the cliffs. So and they're all so exciting in different ways. So that'd be really special.
Very exciting project.
Yeah.
Going to the other way, there's been a lot of noise around the Open in Royal Liverpool, particularly the 17th. I know for a fact that I find the hole incredibly fun to play, and I'm pretty sure the viewers of the Open, there's going to be a huge number of people wanting to go to Liverpool because of that. Mm-hmm. How would you like to respond to anyone about those?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you always your ears prick up more when you hear the criticism than you do when you hear the compliments. And I think there was a lot of people complimenting it as well. But yes, there were some critics of it. Why do you create something just for drama, just for TV, just for the Open? But it's like saying, I suppose, with Carnoustie, would you fill the burn in, for instance, at the last few holes? What?
Please do.
or get rid of water at 17 on Sawgrass.
Exactly. So I know. I think it's and I've declared everywhere, all the interviews that I've made about it, that it wasn't our conception. We certainly helped refine the concept of having a very short horizon line green hole, very short par 3, which could danger abounds around it. I think we certainly achieved that, and obviously we had to get the implementation right and the detail of the design right. So I don't know. I would like to think in this era of sheer power, that when you're just asking the players to be precise, and that is the test. Isn't that refreshing that a hole of that length can really grab the attention? And it was fascinating seeing it at the Open. I mean, obviously the weather was fairly benign, so there were some big scores. But after I was watching the first 14 groups through, and after the first 2 games went through, all hit the green, 1 birdie, 5 pars. I thought, God, this is going to be dull as ditch water. And then Lucas Herbert comes along with the lead, 3 under par, and misses the green left, chips it into the bunker right, doesn't get out, then takes 3 to get down for 6 shots. So I thought, well, maybe worth hanging around here. But they recovered really well. It was brilliant to see their short game. The way they got up and down out of the front bunker, for instance, was incredible. So even I saw someone, I can't remember who it was now, but he got up and down from back left to a
I've been there a couple of times in matches, and my ball's just been put straight in the pocket.
His name wasn't Tommy Fleetwood, Martin.
No, it wasn't Tommy.
Definitely not Tommy.
But again, would I love to have a chat with Tommy about that? But the hole was playing, what was it, 132 yards that day, and no wind at all. Must have been a bit of a misjudgment to fly over the green, because if a ball rolling over the back, it was maintained in such a way that it would hang up on the rough fringe. So, to actually airmail the green like that, it must have been a slight error of judgment, I would say. As great a player as he is, a test of judgment, a test of precision. So I'd like to think that it does hold. It will be regarded as a great hole in the future. The reports about it being blown up immediately afterwards in a certain newspaper, absolute rubbish. The Green chairman has confirmed. Yes, we'll review it and make some minor adjustments potentially, but nothing like blowing it up.
Jim, you had an interesting stat about the difficulty of the hole at the Open.
It was the 8th most difficult.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was. Yeah, I mean, I guess the way we were expecting it to play was that there'd be loads of birdies, and there was a one, but that there would be some bigger scores as well. So and I think that was borne out. I think that hole, the 3rd and the 18th, were the ones which produced more big scores than any other holes. So which is what we'd expect and what we'd sort of almost want from it, I guess. So yeah, I hope it it generates more universal and wide from the golf course architectural fanatics. I hope they grow to like it in general. But everyone's got their opinion.
Well, you look at holes like the shorter style holes, like at Sawgrass or at the postage stamp. I can imagine they were quite controversial when they first came around, and now look at them; they're iconic.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, postage stamp is just great. Standing on that tee, I've refereed the Open at Troon, and just you're sensing the nerves of the players until that ball's safely on the green. So it's you wouldn't think of changing that.
On that note, being a referee in the game as well, is there any crossover between the architecture and refereeing that caused any kind of friction within your career?
No, I don't think so. No one's ever really known when I've gone out and refereed. I think only Matt Kuchar was the only one who asked what I do. The players haven't got any interest in us, apart from when they got a rule into which they need adjudicating. But so no, none of them have even remotely known who I was.
Martin, one thing I'm desperate to ask, because you're here with us and very kind to give up your time, is just off the back of some of the criticism of the 17th. We all love our golf. We like to think we're fairly well read, and we look at some of the online forums and listen to various podcasts. And is it fair to say there's certain sort of industry darlings that are almost seemingly untouchable? And then unfortunately, there's a group of architects that are super talented, and it might not be to everyone's taste, and that's fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Do you feel that there's certain architects that I'm not wording this well, it's almost like cool to have a go at? It's almost like...
I've had a bit of sense of that from a little bit of recent feedback, but in some ways, maybe it's a sign of success that, you're now drawing that attention. And I mean, God, I've got so much time for, a lot of the guys that, are the darlings, the Dokes, the Coram Crenshaws, the Hanses. They do great work. They do fantastic work. They do it differently to the way we do. We would, as I say, be more specific with our plans. As I've often said, we I guess try and do as much of our thinking, before we get to the site, rather than getting that inspiration on the site, not just with the architects, but with their associates. And we don't want to take away from... Well, we still have huge value in working relationship with the shapers as well. But I guess we're giving them more of a head start in terms of what we want. As architects, I guess we feel that we should be the conductor of the orchestra, and really, when you're playing our courses, you're playing what we want rather than what the design associate is producing. But they do great work. Sometimes I think, I have to say some green shapes are a little bit over wild for my taste. And I think, as a member, would you want to go and play that course day in, day out, week in, week out? I think there's been a tendency to, just try and outdo, if you've got a number of design associates on a job, then there could be that element of trying to outdo one another. So I think that there's dangers in that approach as well.
Sorry, just going back to something you said there. You do obviously a lot of renovation work with very top historic golf courses across the UK. Do you find sometimes that you're going to have to reapproach a green because, say, they want to have a quicker green or have a quicker green would be them. Is green speed something you have to think about a lot more now than you probably did 30 years ago?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, over here it's a little bit easier because, the green speeds that certainly on the links courses we're looking at, the RNA would only want 10.5, 11 maybe. So but when you're getting up to 12 and 13, then it's a different level. But again, you see the way we design with very detailed plans, we can analyze, and anyone can analyze, the slopes of an existing green, but then to put the detailed design across and say, right, okay, all of a sudden, look at how many more flag positions you're getting. Then we're giving the club and the contractor and the shaper a plan specifically with specific levels where they can then build exactly to those rather than just working it in on the ground. And by doing that, you can be much more confident that you're going to deliver a green where you're still keeping the character, because you don't want to dumb down these greens too much. But at the same time, like the 11th here was a great case in point, wasn't it? It was
great
really
example.
badly criticised when that was done, but you could argue that was restoring a great old flag position that had been lost.
One of your bits of work that I really enjoyed was your renovation of the Barretts at Nairn. I thought
that was Tom actually, my partner.
Was that Tom?
I did make my first visit since he's done the work recently, but it was 11 o'clock at night, so I don't get.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, because you do a lot of your planning before you arrive at the site, do you ever arrive at a site and change your plans because you feel like you've missed something that you visually now see?
Yeah. I think if there's any danger, that's why it's so important for us to be on site as well, is to make those decisions to adjust. Absolutely. We always want to. That's why I went 13 times to Hirono. Really, was to get the fine detail of. We had Quinn Thompson, the great bunker shaper. He masterminded those bunkers and did a great job. When it came to greens, we had a guy called Andy who he did the fine shaping of the green surfaces, and just having that on-site presence to work with the guy who's just finally getting those levels, I think was really important to just add the final little bit of detail. So,
Simon, do you want to add anything?
No,
more questions?
I think that was fantastic. I'd love you to ask your final question about favourite holes and things.
Oh yeah, my classic finishes.
Yeah,
you
classic
ready?
finisher.
I think we're running out of time because we want to make the Walker Cup ceremony. But okay, first one is top 5 golf courses, and we call it a Simon Holt top 5 because he said about 13. So, what's your? And this is your favourites, not what you think's the best.
No, exactly. Well, I always sort of. It's not joking really, but I'd put Askanish right up there because I just think it's so raw, it's so natural, it's so, it's just golf as it used to be played. So Askanish is up there, the old course is up there. Where else? I hate saying the courses that we're involved with, but just going to Shore because I just thought that was fantastic. Really, really loved seeing that course. Where else have we got down? Portrush. I just think that the combination of the setting and the detail of the Harry Colt's greens, green surrounds and whatever is you've got to have both. You got I think 3 things: setting, the routings obviously is key, but also the detail of shapes.
Interestingly, on Portrush, you have this very famous routing that you played with. Were you nervous about playing with the routing?
Not really, because a lot of people had said it was the best 16-hole course in the world. So, and as soon as we saw the land we had to play with for the new holes, we knew that absolutely, that we were going to end up with an improvement because the topography of those 2 holes is fantastic.
Yeah, you've done a good job.
So we were very confident on that one. I haven't given you my 5th course, and just so I don't upset Mr. Trump, then it's got to be Turnberry.
Thank you again to Martin for joining us. That was really enjoyable, and hopefully we'll be hearing from Martin again soon. Any sort of golf course comes up that he's involved in, it'd be great to get him back on. If you have any questions, email me at james@top100golfcourses.com or just ping us on Instagram. And remember, play fast, lunch slow.